As we continue in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, today I would encourage you to look at verses 14 to 22. And in this pericope, or this passage, Paul is urging Christians to flee from the worship of idols. Now, this might seem to be like, well, what does this have to do with us in the 21st century? Well, maybe more than we initially think on the surface. In the context of the first century and Paul writing this letter, the issue was, hey, if I'm now a Christian and I have a friend who worships this idol and I'm eating dinner at their home and the guy who's putting on the dinner party casually mentions that the food that he's serving was offered to an idol, the question is, well, what do I do? And is it okay to eat that food, or am I jeopardizing my salvation or my relationship with God if I eat it? And Paul basically says, hey, if you're in someone's home, be a good guest. You're not saying that you worship this idol. But then he goes on to say, but if you go to a temple and engage in actual idol worship, that's a no-no. That's absolutely not. Don't do that. And he says, what do I imply then? That food sacrificed to idols is anything, or that an idol is anything? No, I imply that what pagans sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons and not to God. I do not want you to be partners with demons. And so part of what Paul is saying here is, first of all, what's an idol? An idol is something that's false. An idol is something that distracts us and wants our worship, our adulation, our praise, our energy, our time, and draws that away from God. Of course, we go back to the Ten Commandments, right? And God saying, you shall have no other gods before me. And that means no idol, no thing made with human hands. It also means no person. Sometimes it can seem to me anyway that people almost worship some people in our world. And we should never put anybody in that place. That belongs to God alone. And so Paul is saying, for us, we would apply this passage, be very mindful and careful not to put anything or anyone in a place that belongs only to God. And while we want to be salt and light, we want to be like Jesus and having table fellowship even with people who are far from God, just as Jesus went to a dinner party at Matthew's house, we also want to make sure we're consistent in our principles, in living in a way that gives glory and honor and praise to God and doesn't create any sense of question or confusion that we're worshiping anyone or anything else other than the Lord.